What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network for every new deck from Brilliant Stars. I'll be going over all the decks that I feel are worth mentioning, but if I miss any of your favorites, be sure to leave it down in the comments down below, and I'll try to cover it in a future video. Before we get into the video, make sure you comment on this video in particular, because I will be giving away 50 Brilliant Stars PTCGO codes split between two lucky winners. All you have to do is comment down below. Just make it obvious that it's not like a spam comment or anything. Just, say something about Brilliant Stars, about Pokemon TCG. You'll be entered in to win 25 Brilliant Stars codes for PTCGO or PTCG Live. They can be used on either. Before we get into talking about every new deck of Brilliant Stars, though, shout out to my sponsors, PotownStore.com, the best place to get PTCGO codes, CardTrooperGames.com, Beast Coast Pokemon, and PokemonCard.io. You can find all the links in the description down below. Now let's get into it. Today we'll be looking at sample deck lists for three different kinds of ARCEUS V-STAR variants, which will be ARCEUS Dark, ARCEUS FLYGON, and ARCEUS Inteleon. Also, Charizard V-STAR, Entei V, Pachirisu, Raichu V, Torterra, Whimsicott V-STAR, and Wormadam. Let's get into it. So ARCEUS V-STAR. ARCEUS is one of the big bad cards of the new set. It's coming out alongside Double Turbo Energy, which works very well with ARCEUS V-STAR. You might even say that it works brilliantly with ARCEUS V-STAR. So ARCEUS V-STAR can be paired with a ton of things. Some of those are on the screen: Ice Rider, Calyrex, Duraludon, Rayquaza, etc. We're going to look at three variants today. We also talked a bit about it in yesterday's video. Old cards, new tricks for Brilliant Stars, so be sure to check out that video as well if you haven't already. But let's look at some ARCEUS V-STAR variants that I'm considering brand new decks with Brilliant Stars. The first one we'll talk about is ARCEUS V-STAR Dark. This is one of those decks that I think are an ARCEUS V-STAR focused deck, and you just build a toolbox of everything else that you need around it, like Hoopa V that can hit Psychic type weakness and Dark weakness, Galarian Moltres V, which is just one of the most efficient attackers around, Galarian Zapdos V to hit other ARCEUS V-Stars, and Gengar V Maxes for weakness, and then the appropriate support needed to play the deck. Next is ARCEUS V-STAR FLYGON. I do only have one FLYGON V in this list, but I know people want to see how to work FLYGON V into an ARCEUS V-STAR deck, and I thought this was a pretty solid way to do so. Remember, these lists are just sample lists. I'm not saying these are perfect. They're good starters to influence you or inspire your own ideas and deck lists. And the last ARCEUS V-STAR list that we'll look at is a straight ARCEUS deck, or ARCEUS V-STAR Inteleon. This is purely focusing on ARCEUS V-STAR and then some text that work well with it. I think Medicham V and Yveltal from Celebrations both work well with ARCEUS, since Double Turbo Energy works with them, and they do not suffer from the negative effect of Double Turbo Energy, so that works out really nicely. This is just an uber consistent deck with a couple of little techs, and you can tech it out however you like, really. Next, Charizard V-STAR. I think Charizard V-STAR is actually really strong objectively. We'll just have to see how it does in our current standard format. I think 280 HP, dealing 230 damage, is really strong on a two-prizer, not to mention that we can buff that up with Heat, Fire, Energy, and Big Charm. So let's see what I've cooked up for the deck list for old Charizard here. I'm really liking the idea of making these fire attackers beefy with the Heat, Fire Energy that gives them plus 20 HP and the Big Charm. Magma Basin, of course, it does ping them down 2 damage counters, but that's not a huge deal if that ends up being working out so that it makes your opponent's math a lot easier for them. Decks like this could play something to heal off that Magma Basin ping, but Charizard V-STAR does want to have at least 1 damage counter on it for the explosive fire attack that does 230 if it has any damage on it. Moltres also wants to have some damage on it, so they work really well with the new Magma Basin Stadium, and Moltres is a pretty efficient single prize attacker. It does 90 for 1 energy, kind of like Hoopa from Darkness Ablaze does for dark decks, and then Charizard or Entei can clean up anything that Moltres just hit with that 90 on the previous turn. Next is Entei V. So this is going to be a little bit similar to Charizard, but building an Entei focused deck will definitely be different than building a Charizard V-Star focused deck. As you can see here on the screen, I have Cape of Toughness, which I was not talking about for Charizard because it only works on basic Pokemon. So, again, I think trying to make these fire Pokemon beefy with the Heat Fire plus Cape of Toughness and Enteivi's HP being higher than Suicune is one of the reasons why maybe you would want to play this instead of Suicune. And then in addition, Suicune Ludicolo can one-shot things in the active. I'm not playing Ludicolo, I'm not playing Inteleon, but what I am playing is Echoing Horn and Cross Switcher in this list so that you can try to take advantage of your opponent's weaker benched Pokemon and just knock them out with Entei, and then not let your opponent one-shot your Entei due to Heat Fire plus Cape of Toughness. Next is Pachirisu. Pachirisu has the Wind Up Thunder attack that does 30 damage for each Pokemon tool attached to all of your Pokemon. And then Honchkrow V has the ability that lets you have up to 4 Pokemon tools attached to Honchkrow V. You do a whole lot of damage with this little Pachirisu. This is the list I've been working on, and I think it's best to just not play too many stadiums. I play one stadium just so we can bump one path to the peak or one other stadium that's really helping our opponent, and also get use out of the shopping center that allows us to pick up an XP share and replace it with something else like a choice belt. But if the opponent plays Path to the Peak down, that's fine. We just don't get the full value out of Honchkrow V. We can still two-shot everything in the game without Honchkrow V's ability. I don't want to clunk up this deck with too many stadiums worrying about Path to the Peak. I don't think that's smart. But this deck can do a lot of damage, over 300 damage with little Pachirisu. What's important is being able to attack every turn, and we're going to do that with XP Share and Raihan in some combination, playing enough energy so we can get our manual attachments early game, enough supporters, and draw power between Bibarel and the Crobat, and we got Marnie and Bruno Research, and then the Raihans on the turns we need that. Just one boss's orders. I feel like single prize decks in this environment typically don't have the chance to play Gust supporters a lot of times because they need to draw more cards to reestablish their board because their Pokemon are getting knocked out every turn. So this is the list I'm on right now for Pachirisu. Next, we have Raichu V. We did have a Raichu V list in yesterday's video for the old decks, new tricks. I keep saying yesterday, but I think there's going to be 2 days between this video and that video, actually. I don't know. I guess you'll find out when that happens. But Raichu V, Flaffy, I think this could be a deck. And here I have it paired with ARCEUS V-STAR as well. ARCEUS V-STAR can start out by Trinity Nova on turn 2, accelerate energy on the board, and then you just go bam, bam, take knockouts with Raichu V's attack that does 60 for each energy you discard. A little single prize action there with the Zekrom, and I think this could be a really fun deck, and could potentially be good. We'll just have to see, see what the matchups are, what the popular decks are in the format, but I see no reason why this deck can't at least function at the very least and be a solid, decent deck. Next is Torterra. Now, we were just talking about being a solid, decent deck. I'm very pessimistic about this, but I want to cover it. I love Torterra. I love Empoleon. It seems like a fun deck at the very least that should function somewhat, but I wouldn't guess that it's going to be a competitive deck if I had to guess. Torterra's Evo Press does 50 for each of your evolution Pokemon in play, so you want to have a lot of evolution Pokemon in play. It does include itself in the active. Grottle searches your deck for a grass Pokemon, so that's nice. We have this Beedrill card from Vivid Voltage that allows you to put it directly to the bench if it's the last card in your hand. And then we also have this Empoleon that allows you to go from the discard pile to the bench if you have no cards in your hand. So those are evolution Pokemon that go straight down to replace something that was knocked out. So that's good for the Evo Press damage output. I don't have Empoleon in today's list, but I do have Beedrill in the list. This is what I've cooked up, trying to make it consistent, straight to the point. Set up, have the ordinary rod to get your Pokemon back. Maybe this could also use a rescue carrier. But with these kinds of decks, what I'm worried about in the first place is actually getting set up, actually getting to play the game. And then from there, you figure out what else you could do. But like I said, I don't think this is a competitive deck, but I think it can function and be fun. It just doesn't seem like it's good enough to stand up with the, the V-Maxes, the V-Stars, and a couple of the other really efficient single prizers like Rapid Strike Malamar and Pachirisu even. Next, we have Whimsicott V-Star. So I think there's 2 ways to play Whimsicott V-Star pretty much. You either play double turbo energy, straight Whimsicott V-Star with disruption, or you play it with Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX. Maybe you could combine the two, but I think those are kind of the two ways you could play it. I personally like the straight version with Disruption without Shadow Rider. Maybe Shadow Rider can be fit in there as a thin line, but I want to play Path to the Peak in my list, so no Shadow Rider for me. I just want to be really disruptive, get rid of their energies with Crushing Hammer, Yell Grunt, Fan of Waves, lock their abilities with Path to the Peak, Marnie them down to a bad hand, and then use Whimsicott's attack to do 160, and say that they cannot attach special energy next turn. That's really hard for decks like Single Strike, like Rapid Strike, like Fusion Strike, all the strikes, decks that want to play double turbo energies. They can't do that if you use Whimsicott V-Star's first attack to do 160, and then they can't attach special energy or tools. Whimsicott V-Star does have an okay V-Star attack that does 60 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each energy on Whimsicott V-Star, but if you use that, that means you didn't use the special energy locking attack, so usually you're going to do that to remove a big threat or finish the game. And lastly, and possibly leastly, I think this might actually be better than Torterra, but Wormadam. There are 3 different Wormadams. They all evolve from Burmy. They have the Mad Wormadam attack for a double turbo or twin energy. Twin energy's still around, by the way, guys. Does 30 plus 10 more for each Pokemon in your discard pile. We've seen this attack plenty of times before. Will it be good enough right now? I'm not so sure. But here's a list from PokecardLab.com. I found this one. It might be a little blurry because the image size was a little smaller, but I think you can make out what everything is. We got the Zoroarks that could transform into another Pokemon. They're also playing, what is interesting, is the Mothim that evolves from Burmy as well, because Wormadam isn't the only thing that evolves from it. And if it evolved this turn, it does 120 for a double turbo / twin, so not too bad in the early turns. And then they have a 2 grass, 1 fighting, 1 metal split of the Wormadams. And that's it. They also have the Altaria that can't be hit by V Pokemon that can that Zoroark can transform into. So you can do some cool things with Zoroark. I would definitely slap a Manaphy into here. I don't know why there's no Manaphy. Get a Manaphy in there. That's going to be it for today. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. And like I said, be sure to comment on this video. 2 of the commenters will win 25 Brilliant Stars PTCGO / PTCG live codes. I'll send those out probably a few days after the video goes up. I'll comment, ask you for your email or contact or whatever, and we'll get you some codes. So be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. As always, check out my sponsors and my Discord link and everything else in the description down below. And thank you so much for watching today. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.